6 months before my wedding, a woman asked me a question I should have been able to answer in 1 second. She didn't ask it loudly. She didn't make a scene. She didn't even look nervous when she said it. We were standing in the back storage room of the hotel where I worked. It smelled like fresh paint, wet cardboard, and old coffee. Somewhere outside that room, people were setting up wine glasses for a corporate dinner, and I could hear them clinking together, one after another. She was sitting on the floor with her legs crossed, like the floor belonged to her. Her hands were covered in dark blue paint. I was standing by the door holding a clipboard against my chest like it could protect me from whatever she was about to say. And then she looked up at me, not in a flirty way, not in a dramatic way, just directly, like she could see something I had spent years trying not to see. And she asked me, "Emma, are you happy?" I laughed. That was my first reaction. I laughed because that's what I did when something made me uncomfortable. I laughed because I was 23 years old, engaged to the boy I had loved since I was 17, living in a cute apartment with him, planning a wedding that was only 6 months away, and everyone in my life kept telling me how lucky I was. So the answer was supposed to be easy. Yes, of course, yes. I had Noah. I had a ring. I had a wedding dress hanging in my mother's guest room. I had a seating chart, a honeymoon folder, a Pinterest board, and a fiancé who knew exactly how I liked my coffee. My life made sense, at least from the outside. So I opened my mouth to say yes, but nothing came out. And that was the first time I felt scared. Not of her, of myself. I met Noah when I was 10 years old. He lived 3 houses down from me on one of those quiet streets where everybody knows your parents, your dog, and what time you got home the night before. The first time I saw him, he was sitting on the curb with a scraped knee and a red bike lying on the sidewalk beside him. He was trying not to cry. I could tell. His face was all tight, like if he blinked too hard, the tears would fall. I walked over with my giant school backpack and said, "My mom has dinosaur band-aids." And he looked at me like I had just offered him a miracle. That was Noah. That was the beginning. After that, he was just there. At my 11th birthday party, at school assemblies, at summer barbecues, at the lake on weekends. He was there when my dog died and I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. He was there when my dad lost his job and our house went quiet for almost a year. He was there when I got my license. He was there when I had my first panic attack before a final exam and didn't know what was happening to me. Noah knew me before I knew how to make myself look normal for other people. And when we were 17, he kissed me for the first time in the back seat of his car, parked near the lake. It wasn't some perfect movie kiss. Honestly, it was awkward. We bumped teeth. I laughed into his mouth. He turned bright red. And then we kissed again, slower this time, both of us shaking like we had done something huge. That night, I went home, lay on my bed, stared at the ceiling, and thought, so this is love. And for years, no one gave me a reason to question that. Noah was good, and I don't mean good in the way people say it when they don't have anything interesting to say about someone. I mean he was really good. He was patient, kind, steady. The kind of person who would drive across town to bring me soup if I had a sore throat. The kind of person who remembered my mom's birthday without me reminding him. The kind of person who would take my car to get gas because he knew I hated doing it when it was cold. He didn't play games. He didn't make me chase him. He didn't make me wonder if I mattered. When he loved you, you knew. And I loved him for that. I need you to understand that. Because if he had been cruel, this story would be easier to tell. If he had cheated, lied, yelled, controlled me, ignored me, people would know what to do with that. They would say, "Of course you left." But Noah didn't do any of those things. He loved me well. And somehow, that made everything worse. When Noah proposed, he did it at the same lake where we had first kissed. I knew something was happening because he was acting weird all day. Too quiet, too careful. He kept checking his pocket like the ring might run away. And when he got down on one knee, I started crying before he even finished asking. Everyone cried when we told them. My mom cried. His mom cried. My aunt said she had known since we were kids. My best friend said, "Finally." And I smiled because that was the word everybody used. Finally. Like our story had been written years before and we were just catching up to it. Finally, the childhood friends were getting married. Finally, the boy next door was becoming my husband. Finally, the life everyone expected from me was happening. And at the time, I thought that feeling in my chest was happiness. Now I think some of it was relief. Because when your life already has a path, you don't have to ask yourself too many questions. You just keep walking. Claire arrived at the hotel on a Tuesday. I remember it was a Tuesday because Tuesdays at the Marlowe house were usually boring in the worst possible way. The Marlowe was a boutique hotel downtown, the kind of place that tried very hard to look old without looking outdated. Cream walls, dark wood floors, gold lamps, fresh flowers in the lobby. Soft jazz playing so low it almost felt like the building was humming to itself. I worked there as an event coordinator, which sounded more glamorous than it was. Most of my job was answering emails, fixing things nobody planned for, and smiling, while people acted like flower arrangements were life or death emergencies. The napkins were the wrong shade of ivory. The bride didn't want her aunt near the bar. The company's CEO wanted the ballroom to feel warmer, whatever that meant. Someone was always panicking. And I was good at handling panic. Too good, maybe. I liked lists, schedules, timelines, floor plans. I liked knowing where everything was supposed to go. I liked having answers before people asked questions. Back then, I called that being responsible. Now I think it was fear dressed up as competence. That Tuesday, my boss, Diane, asked me to go downstairs and meet the new artist. "She's doing the custom paintings for the renovated wing," Diane said. "Her name is Claire Bennett. Please make sure she doesn't destroy anything expensive." So I went down to the West Ballroom with my clipboard and my very professional face. And there she was, Claire, standing in the middle of the room, staring at a blank wall like she was waiting for it to confess something. She had light brown hair, a little wavy, twisted up with a pencil. She was wearing faded jeans, a white t-shirt with paint near the collar, and black boots that looked like they had seen more of the world than I had. She didn't look impressed by the hotel. That annoyed me immediately. Everyone was impressed by the Marlowe, the chandeliers, the high ceilings, the huge mirrors, the expensive smell, but not Claire. Claire looked at the walls like she had opinions. I cleared my throat. "Claire?" She turned around and smiled. Not a perfect smile, not a polite smile, a real one. The kind that happens before a person has time to decide whether or not they should smile. "You must be Emma," she said. "I am. I'll be helping you with logistics." "Logistics? Hours, access, materials, storage, hotel rules, things like that." She looked at my clipboard, then back at me. "Wow," she said. "You came armed." I didn't know if it was a joke or an insult. I like being prepared, I can tell. There was something about her tone that irritated me. She wasn't rude, she wasn't mean, but she spoke like maybe everything didn't have to be as serious as I made it, and for some reason, that got under my skin. I walked her through the rules. No painting near the rugs, no materials on antique tables, no blocking fire exits, no loud music during events, no working after 9 without approval. She listened quietly, she nodded, and when I finished, she said, "Do you always talk like you're reading a contract?" I froze. "Excuse me?" She tilted her head a little. "Sorry. It's just, you seem really good at following rules. I shouldn't have cared. It was one sentence from a woman I had known for less than 10 minutes, but it landed somewhere tender. Somewhere I didn't know was tender until she touched it." "Rules exist for a reason," I said. Claire looked down, smiling to herself. "Yeah, I guess they do." And then she turned back to the wall. Like I wasn't even there anymore. That was the first time I wanted to leave a room because of her. It would not be the last. For the first 2 weeks I told myself Claire annoyed me. That was the word I used. Annoying. She was late by 5 minutes and said, "Sorry, the light on the street was insane. I had to take a picture." She drank iced coffee until the ice melted because she forgot she was holding it. She sat on the floor even when there were perfectly good chairs. She talked to the cleaning staff like they had been friends for years. One afternoon, I found her lying flat on her back in the main ballroom, staring at the ceiling. I honestly thought she had fainted. "Are you okay?" I asked. She didn't move. "Yeah. I'm trying to understand the light at 4 o'clock. You could do that sitting down. Not the same way. I just stood there. Because what do you even say to that?" Claire lived like she had never been trained to ask permission to take up space, and I had spent my whole life asking permission. Permission to speak. Permission to change. Permission to disappoint someone. Permission to want something different. I didn't know that then. Back then, I just thought she was messy. And I was not messy. I was the girl who had emergency sewing kits in her desk. The girl who confirmed dinner reservations twice. The girl who said, "No problem," even when it was very much a problem. That was who I was, or at least that was who I had practiced being. At home, no one noticed something before I had words for it. He always did. One night, we were eating pasta on the couch, watching a show we had been watching for weeks. Well, he was watching it. I was staring at the screen and absorbing absolutely nothing. Noah paused the show. I blinked. "Yeah? You've been moving that pasta around for 10 minutes. I looked down. He was right. I had basically destroyed it with my fork. "I'm tired," I said. "Work tired or something else tired?" That was the thing about Noah. He didn't ask questions just to check a box. He actually waited for the answer. And sometimes that made me feel loved. Sometimes it made me feel trapped. Work, I said. He nodded, but he didn't look convinced. Is the artist still driving you crazy? I gave a small laugh. She is not driving me crazy. Emma, you came home yesterday and talked for 20 minutes about how she used the ladder without asking permission. That's dangerous, of course. He smiled at me softly, and for a second I loved him in the safest way. That's what confused me later, because I did love Noah. It wasn't fake. He wasn't a cover. He wasn't some man I was using to look normal. I loved him. I had loved him for years. I just didn't understand yet that loving someone doesn't always mean you can build a whole life with them. The first time Claire made me really laugh, it was a Thursday night. There was a private dinner in the East Ballroom, and the organizer had changed the table layout 3 times in 1 hour. I was one more email away from losing my mind. My hair was pulled back too tight. My shoes hurt. I went into the back hallway looking for tape and found Claire painting a sample on a huge canvas leaning against the wall. She had music playing quietly from her phone, something soft, a little sad, beautiful, but not in a clean way. You can't be here right now, I said. She kept painting. Good evening to you too. There's an event. I'm in the back hallway. The back hallway still counts. Emma. She said my name in a way that made me stop. Not loud, not sharp, just direct. Come here for a second. I don't have a second. Then give me half of one. I sighed, but I walked over. She pointed at the canvas. What do you see? I looked at it. Blue, gray, gold. A lot of paint that apparently meant something. I see that you're working in an unauthorized area. Claire looked at me. Then she burst out laughing. Not politely, not quietly. She really laughed, and something in me cracked. I tried not to laugh. I really did. But then she covered her mouth with the back of her hand and accidentally smeared blue paint across her cheek. That was it. I lost it. I laughed so hard I had to turn away. What? She asked. You have paint on your face. Where? I pointed. There. She wiped the wrong side. Did I get it? No. Now it's worse. She tried again. Somehow. Worse again. And before I thought about what I was doing, I reached out. That's the part I kept replaying later. Before I thought. I touched her cheek with my thumb. The paint was cool and still a little wet. Her skin was warm. Claire stopped moving. So did I. The hallway noise seemed to drop away. The music was still playing from her phone, but suddenly it felt very far away. My thumb stayed there for 1 second too long. Not long enough for someone to walk by and say, that means something, but long enough for my body to know it did. I pulled my hand back too fast. There, I said. Claire looked at me. She wasn't laughing anymore. Thanks. I grabbed the tape and walked away before my face could tell the truth. That night, when Noah kissed me before bed, I closed my eyes and thought about blue paint. At first, I told myself it was admiration. That was a safe word. Admiration. Claire was free. Claire was talented. Claire said things without apologizing for taking up air. Claire sat on the floor of an expensive hotel like expensive things didn't intimidate her. Maybe I admired her. Maybe I envied her. Maybe she made me uncomfortable because she had something I wanted. That was all. That had to be all. But the body knows things before the mind is ready to admit them, and my body started betraying me. I knew when she entered a room before I saw her. I recognized her footsteps, her voice, the smell of paint thinner and coffee that somehow followed her around. I got tense when she stood too close. I got irritated when she wasn't there, so I started avoiding her, not dramatically, just enough. If she was in the West Ballroom, I went east. If I needed to ask her something, I emailed. If I saw her coming down the hallway, I pretended to get a call. It worked for 3 days. On the 4th day, she found me on the small hotel terrace during my break. I was eating a granola bar I didn't want, staring down at the street. Are you avoiding me? She asked. I almost choked. What? Claire leaned against the railing beside me. You're really bad at it. I'm not avoiding you, so it's personal with every hallway I happen to be standing in? I stared straight ahead. I'm busy. Everybody's busy. I'm more busy. That, I believe. There was a silence. It wasn't uncomfortable for her. It was very uncomfortable for me. Why do you do that? I asked. Do what? Talk like you know me. Claire looked at me for a second. Her eyes were light but not soft. There was something sharp in them, something alive. Because I think you hide behind how easy you are to know. I felt my face get hot. That doesn't make sense. It does. You don't know me. No, she said, but I notice things. What things? She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I notice that everybody comes to you when something breaks. I notice that you never say no without over-explaining. I notice that you laugh when you're uncomfortable. I notice that you have this beautiful, organized life, and sometimes you look like you're watching it happen from the outside. I couldn't breathe right. I hated that. I hated that she was right. I hated that a woman who had been in my life for less than a month had seen something I had spent years not naming. I have to go, I said. Emma. I didn't turn around. That wasn't an attack. It sounded like one. Sometimes the truth sounds like that when you've been avoiding it for a long time. I walked away. But that sentence followed me. Into the elevator, into the office, into my car, into my apartment. It lay between me and Noah when I got into bed that night. The first real lie I told Noah was on a Friday. And it wasn't even a big lie. That's the part that scares me now. Big lies feel dangerous. You know when you're telling them. Small lies slide into your life quietly. They almost feel reasonable. Noah asked if I wanted to have dinner with his parents on Saturday. I said I had work. I didn't. Claire had mentioned she would be finishing one of the larger paintings that afternoon and said, "If you want to see it before everyone pretends to understand it, I'll be here tomorrow." She didn't make it sound special. She didn't even really invite me. But I knew I was going from the second she said it. On Saturday afternoon, I parked 2 blocks away from the hotel. I don't know why. There was no reason to hide my car, but I did. Maybe because some part of me already knew I wasn't going there for the painting. The hotel was almost empty. Late afternoon light came through the tall windows, slow and golden. I found Claire in the West Ballroom. A huge canvas stood in front of her. It wasn't finished in a neat way. It looked alive. Deep blues, soft gray, thin lines of gold. In the center, there was a figure, almost hidden, standing with their back turned toward the sea. I stopped in the doorway. "Wow," I said. Claire didn't turn right away. That wow sounded real. It was. She wiped her hands on a cloth. "Come here." I walked closer. "What does it mean?" I asked. Claire made a face. "I hate that question. Sorry." "No, it's okay. It's just, people always want art to behave like an email. Clear, brief, useful." I smiled. That felt directed at me. A little. I looked at her. She was smiling too. This time, it didn't annoy me. "For me," she said, looking at the canvas, "it's about someone who's about to leave, but they still don't know if they're allowed." I swallowed. "Allowed by who?" Claire looked at me. Exactly. That word sat between us. Exactly. Like the answer was obvious. Like the permission I had been waiting for my whole life could only come from me. I looked back at the painting. That figure, standing there, back turned, almost moving, but not quite. It hurt. "It's beautiful," I said. My voice came out lower than normal. "Do you like your life, Emma?" she asked. I closed my eyes for a second. "Why do you ask me things like that?" "Because you don't seem like someone people ask." I laughed once, small, almost sad. "I have a good life. I didn't ask if it was good. I opened my eyes." Claire was still looking at the painting. "I asked if you like it." I didn't answer, because one part of me wanted to say yes, but another part of me wanted to say, "I don't know." And that answer terrified me. "I should go," I said. She didn't try to stop me. Before I left, she said, "You don't have to answer me today. But someday, you're gonna have to answer yourself." That night, Noah was waiting for me. The apartment smelled like tomato sauce and toasted bread. He had cooked. There were 2 plates on the table, 2 glasses, a bottle of the cheap red wine I liked, and I walked in with my heart full of someone else. That is a very specific kind of guilt. Because nothing had happened, not technically. I hadn't kissed Claire. I hadn't told her anything. I hadn't done anything someone could point to and say, "There, that's the betrayal." But something in me had already turned its head, and sometimes that feels worse. Noah smiled when I came in. I walked over and kissed him. It was a normal kiss. Familiar. Safe. His lips were the lips I had known since I was 17. His hand went to my waist the same way it always did. Everything was known, everything was loved, and for the first time I felt like I was acting. Not because I wanted to lie to him, because my body was in one scene and my mind was still in another. Noah pulled back a little. He looked at me. "Are you okay?" That question. Always that question. Always his way of seeing me when I was trying to disappear. "Yeah," I said. He held my face gently. His thumb brushed my cheek. "Lately, you're tired all the time." And that was when I knew. Not in words, not fully, but I knew. Noah was going to notice everything. because he knew me before I learned how to hide properly, and for the first time, that didn't feel romantic, it felt dangerous. The kiss happened on a rainy night. I know, it sounds too obvious, but life doesn't always avoid cliches. Sometimes it uses them because they work. There was a fundraiser at the hotel that night. Rich people, champagne, black dresses, dark suits, small laughs that sounded expensive. I wore a navy dress and heels that were killing me by 9 o'clock. Claire was there too, not dressed like everyone else. She wore black pants, a loose white shirt, and for the first time since I'd met her, her hair was down. That should not have mattered, but it did. Later, around 10, someone said there was water leaking near the back storage room. The rain was hitting the windows hard by then. I went to check. Claire was already there, moving a box away from the wall. "You shouldn't be lifting that by yourself," I said. "And you shouldn't be walking that fast in those shoes." Together we pushed the box into a dry corner. The storage room was small, with yellow light and the smell of wet wood. Outside, rain hammered the building like the whole city was being rinsed clean. Claire pushed her hair back with one hand. The ends were damp. There was a drop of water sliding down the side of her neck. I saw it, and then I hated myself for seeing it. "You're shaking," she said. "I'm cold." That was not completely true. Claire took one step closer. Not much, just one. "Emma. Emma." "No." The word came out before she could say anything else. Claire stopped. "I didn't say anything. But you were going to. What was I going to say? I don't know." My voice cracked. "Something I don't want to hear." Claire looked at me with a softness that almost destroyed me. "Okay." That was all. "Okay." She didn't move closer. She didn't ask for anything. And maybe that's why I was the one who crossed the space between us. I didn't decide it clearly. There wasn't some dramatic thought in my head like, "I'm going to kiss her now." There was only a second where walking away felt more unbearable than stepping closer. So I stepped closer. Then again, Claire stopped breathing. I noticed because I did too. "Emma," she whispered. This time, my name didn't sound like a question. It sounded like a warning. I should have left. I should have thought about Noah, the wedding, my mother, the white dress, the boy with the scraped knee, the ring on my finger, everything I could break. But in that second, I didn't think about any of it. I only thought, so this is what it feels like to be awake. I kissed her. At first it was barely anything, just a touch, so soft I could have pretended it didn't happen, but Claire didn't pull away. Her hand lifted slowly like she was giving me time to change my mind, and then it rested on my waist. That contact went through me completely. It wasn't just desire. That would have been easier to understand. It was relief, like my body had been waiting for a truth my mind was too afraid to say. I kissed her again, harder this time. The rain hit the roof. My hands found the front of her shirt and held on without meaning to, like I needed proof that she was real. Claire kissed me carefully. That was what broke me, not like someone taking something, like someone who knew the person in front of her was about to lose the life she understood. I pulled away first, breathing wrong, lips warm. We just looked at each other. And in that silence, I understood something so terrifying that my knees almost went weak. It wasn't curiosity, it wasn't admiration, it wasn't some passing confusion. What I felt for Claire had a body now. It had a name, it had consequences, and I couldn't put it back where it came from. So I did the most cowardly thing I could do. I stepped back and said, "This didn't happen." Claire closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, there was hurt in her face, but not surprise. "Emma, it didn't happen. You can't do that." "Yes, I can. No." Her voice stayed low, but it was firm. "You can leave. You can avoid me. You can marry him if that's what you choose. But you don't get to say this didn't happen." I felt like I was going to cry. "I have a life. I know. I have Noah. I know. You don't understand." Claire swallowed. "I think I understand more than you want me to." I left. I almost ran down the back hallway. I locked myself in the staff bathroom. Then I stood over the sink and stared at myself in the mirror. My lipstick was smudged. A few strands of hair had fallen loose. My eyes were too bright. I looked like me, but not the version of me I knew how to explain. And I whispered, "No. No. No." Like if I said it enough times, I could become the person I had been before I kissed her. But that person didn't come back. She never came back. When I got home, Noah was asleep on the couch. The TV was on with the sound muted. A blanket was pulled over his legs. There were 2 mugs on the coffee table. Tea for him. Tea for me. Mine had gone cold. I stood by the door and looked at him, and something inside me split. For years, I had believed that if someone was good to you, if they chose you, if they cared for you, if they loved you without hurting you, then that had to be enough. It had to be. But standing there, with another woman's kiss still on my mouth and my fiancé asleep waiting for me, I realized Noah's goodness could not answer the question I had spent my whole life avoiding. Was I happy? Not lucky. Not safe. Not loved. Not grateful. Happy. I walked over quietly. Noah moved a little and opened his eyes. "Hey," he murmured. "You're home." "Yeah. Everything okay?" The question hit me so hard I almost told the truth. Almost. But not that night. I sat beside him. He rested his head on my lap, half asleep. I ran my fingers through his hair, and I cried without making a sound. And while I touched the hair of the man I was supposed to marry, one sentence kept repeating in my head. I just ruined everything. And the worst part was, a small, terrible part of me did not feel ruined. It felt alive. Over the next 2 weeks, I tried to split myself in half and act like nobody could see the crack. With Noah, I was the fiancé. I made lists, reviewed vendors, talked about flowers, let him hug me in the kitchen, answered questions about the honeymoon. I said, yes, I love that color, even when I hadn't heard what color anyone was talking about. With Claire, I was nothing, or maybe that's what I tried to be. We barely spoke. She stopped looking for me, stopped making comments in the hallway, stopped saying my name like she could pull me out of hiding with one word. And that distance, the distance I had created, started to hurt like something had been taken from me. One afternoon, I saw her laughing with Megan near the front desk. It wasn't anything, just a normal conversation, but I felt jealous. Jealous. What right did I have? I had no right to want Claire to look at me, no right to feel hurt because she was respecting the wall I had built, no right to miss her while Noah was texting me asking if I wanted ice cream. And still, I missed her. That was what scared me most, not the kiss, the after, the empty space it left. The way my life, which had always felt full, suddenly felt like a house with one locked room. And behind that door was Claire. Noah confronted me on a Sunday morning, not aggressively. That wasn't him. He did it while we were folding laundry on the bed, which somehow made it worse. There were towels between us, socks, one of his old gray hoodies I had worn 1,000 times. He was folding it very carefully when he said, "I think you're disappearing from me." I froze with the towel in my hands. "What? You're here," he said. "But you're not here." My chest tightened. "I'm stressed." "It's not stress. The wedding is a lot. Emma." He put the hoodie down. Then he looked at me. There was no anger in his face. I almost wished there was. Anger gives you something to fight. Pain doesn't. "I've known you since we were 10, he said. "I know what you're like when you're tired. I know what you're like when you're overwhelmed. This isn't that." I didn't say anything. "I don't need you to tell me everything right now," he continued, "but I need to know if there's something you're not saying." The towel slid from my hands. That was the door, right there, the clean moment. I could have told him. But I looked at Noah and saw the boy on the curb with the scraped knee, the teenager at the lake, the man on one knee with a ring in his hand, and I lied. "There's no one else." Noah blinked. I didn't even understand what I had done until the words were already out. He hadn't asked me that, not directly, but my answer revealed the question. "I didn't say there was someone else," he said. My face went cold. "I know. Emma." I sat down on the bed because I suddenly didn't trust my legs. "Look at me." I shook my head. I couldn't. He sat across from me. He didn't touch me. I think that hurt more than if he had. "Is there someone else?" he asked. The whole room seemed to hold its breath. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Noah closed his eyes for 1 second. When he opened them, something in him had changed. "Is it Claire?" Hearing her name in our bedroom felt like watching ink spill across a white sheet. I started to cry, quietly. Noah didn't need me to answer. Sometimes your body confesses before your mouth can. "Did you kiss her?" he asked. I couldn't look at him. Yes, the word was tiny, but it broke something huge. Noah stood up. He walked to the window. He stood with his back to me. "Do you love her?" "I don't know." "Do you want to be with her?" "I don't know." "Do you want to marry me?" That question was different. Because that one, I understood. I stayed silent, and the silence answered for me. Noah nodded slowly, like someone had just given him medical results. "I need to leave," he said. "Noah, I can't be here right now." He grabbed his keys, not his jacket, not his phone, just his keys. And when he closed the door, he didn't slam it. That was the most Noah thing of all. Even devastated, he didn't want to scare me, and that made me cry harder. Noah didn't come home that night. At 8, he texted me. "I'm at Mason's. I'm safe. I can't talk yet." I read it sitting on the kitchen floor. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't turned on the lights. Every object looked like it belonged to a version of me I could no longer keep pretending to be. The mug that said "Future Mrs. Carter." The photo of us at the lake. The wedding invitation stuck to the fridge with a magnet. I stood up and took the invitation off the fridge. I didn't rip it. I couldn't. I just placed it face down on the table. Then I opened my phone. There was a message from Claire. "Are you okay?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed. I told him. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally she wrote, "I'm sorry. I didn't answer." Half an hour later another message came. "I care about you, but I can't be the place you run to because your life is falling apart." I read that sentence once, twice, 3 times. At first it hurt, then it made me angry. And then, when the anger faded, I understood it was probably the most decent thing she could have said. Claire wasn't playing. She didn't want to be my secret. She didn't want to be the crack I escaped through because my life had caught fire. I typed, "I know," and that was all. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because the bed felt too big, because I was ashamed to lie in it. And before I finally fell asleep, one thought kept circling in my head. I thought the kiss was the moment everything changed, but I was wrong. The real breaking point was still coming. Before we continue, if this story has you hooked, please like the video, subscribe, and comment which moment hit you the hardest so far. It helps us keep creating stories like this for you. Now let's continue. Noah came home the next morning. I heard his key in the door before I saw him, and for one stupid second, my body reacted like everything was normal. The door opened. He stepped inside. He looked exhausted, not messy, not dramatic. Just empty in that quiet way people look when they have cried somewhere private and cleaned themselves up before coming home. He closed the door gently. Of course he did. Noah never made noise when he was hurt, and somehow that made it worse. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "Hi," I said. My voice sounded small. "Hi." That was it. After knowing someone since you were 10, after loving them for 6 years, after planning a wedding with them, sometimes all you have left is hi. He filled a glass with water. His hands were steady. That scared me. There is a kind of anger that shakes. And there is a kind of pain that becomes very still. Noah was still. "I spent the whole night trying to understand when it started," he said. "Not the kiss. I don't mean that. I mean, when did you start leaving me?" The question went straight through me. "I don't know," I whispered. "That's what scares me. Noah, I'm sorry. I know you are, but you hurt me. There are sentences that sound simple until someone says them to your face. But you did. No drama, no insult, just the truth. I need you to tell me what happened inside you," he said. I hated that question. Because I could describe the kiss, the room, the rain, Claire's hand on my waist. But how do you explain months, maybe years, of slowly becoming a stranger to yourself without noticing? "I was confused," I said. The words felt weak the second they left my mouth. "That's not enough," he said. "Confused is what people say when they don't want to say the ugly thing." I flinched. He saw it. "I'm not trying to be cruel. I just need the truth, even if it makes me hate you for a while." That broke something in me, because there it was, the consequence, not a dramatic scream. Just the possibility that the person who had loved me most might need to hate me in order to survive me. I forced myself to continue. I think she made me feel like there was a version of me I hadn't met yet. Noah's eyes got wet, but he didn't look away. "And I think that scared me because with you, I knew who I was." He nodded slowly. "The girl I grew up with, the girl who was going to marry me, the girl everyone already understood." I couldn't speak, so I nodded. And when he spoke again, his voice was almost a whisper. "Did you ever want it? The wedding? I loved you." "That's not what I asked. Did you want me?" I started crying again. I thought I did. Noah closed his eyes. When he opened them, he nodded once, like something had been confirmed. "Okay." And he walked past me toward the hallway. I realized then that the first stage of losing someone is not them leaving. It's when they are still in the house, and you can already feel that they are gone. For the next few days, we lived together like careful strangers. Noah slept in the guest room. At first, I hated that. Then I understood it. Our bedroom had become impossible. At night, we spoke about practical things, groceries, bills, whether I had called the florist back. That one came up by accident. I was washing a plate when he asked, "Did the florist email you again?" The plate almost slipped from my hand. "She needs the final deposit by Friday." The kitchen went quiet, because that was not about flowers. It was about the wedding. The word sat in the room like a person we were both pretending not to recognize. "We have to talk about it," he said. "I know." "Not tonight." A part of me still hoped that if we didn't say the word cancel, maybe the wedding would stay suspended in the air. "Not happening. Not over, just frozen, and I could stay frozen with it. My mother started calling on the third day. I ignored her at first. Then she texted. Noah's mom said you two postponed the cake tasting. What is going on? Then, what did he do? I stared at that sentence for a long time. What did he do? That was what everyone was going to think. That Noah had done something. That the man had failed. That there had to be a clean reason for the story to make sense. Because the truth was so much harder to explain. He didn't do anything. That was the problem. Noah had been good. Noah had loved me. Noah had done what people say they want someone to do. And I still couldn't marry him. How do you tell your mother that? At work, Claire kept her distance. She did exactly what she said she would do. She cared, but she did not become the place I ran to, and I respected her for that. I also hated it. Both things were true. One afternoon, I brought her a revised schedule because Diane had changed the timing again. Our fingers didn't touch. I hated that I noticed that. Thanks, she said. I turned to leave. Emma, how is he? The question stunned me. Not, how are you? How is he? That was Claire. That was why I could not make her into something simple. He's not okay, I said. She nodded. Her face changed. Not guilt exactly, more like grief. And you? I almost gave the easy answer. Fine. Instead, I said, I don't think I know how to be in my own life anymore. Claire looked at me for a long second. Then don't rush to replace it. I felt the sentence land. I wanted to be annoyed. I wanted to say she didn't understand, but she did. That was the problem. A week after Noah found out, we finally had the conversation that ended the wedding. It was night. The apartment was quiet. We had ordered food, but neither of us had eaten. Noah was standing by the window. I was sitting on the couch. There were only a few feet between us, but it felt like years. Then he said, I think we need to cancel the wedding. He didn't ask it. He said it. And still, hearing the words knocked the air out of me. The wedding? I said. As if there was another one. We can't do this. I know. Do you? Yes, I know. He faced me. I don't want to stand at an altar and watch you try to convince yourself. That sentence destroyed me. Because it was exactly what I might have done. If he had not stopped me, if he had not seen me, I might have kept going. I might have walked down the aisle and said, I do with my throat closing. Built a marriage on top of a silence and called it loyalty. He sat down across from me. Not beside me. Across. I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth, not the kind version, the truth. I nodded. Do you want a life with me because you love me, or because you don't know who you are without me? I stared at him. The question was so precise it almost felt violent. I don't know, I said. A tear slid down his face. Just one. That is an answer, Em. I started crying. I'm sorry. I do love you. I love you too. And there it was, the real tragedy. Not that the love was gone. It wasn't. Love was sitting right there between us, broken and useless and still alive. But I don't think you love me like someone who wants to choose me for the rest of her life. I wanted to deny it. Every part of me wanted to say, I'm just scared. This is a crisis. We can fix it. But if he asked me to choose him in that moment, I knew I could only do it by disappearing again. So I stayed quiet. And Noah understood. What do we do? I asked. He looked around the apartment. The couch we had argued about because I wanted green and he wanted gray, the photos on the shelf, the life we had been practicing for years. I think you need to leave for a while, he said. Leave? I'm not throwing you out. I just don't think you can think here. Everything here tells you to go back to being who you were. I couldn't argue. And us? I asked. I don't know if there is an us after this. The silence that followed was the real ending, not the kiss, not the confession, not even the word cancel. That silence. Because some things don't explode. They go quiet, and you sit there looking at the smoke, wondering how something that used to warm you can suddenly feel so cold. Calling people was worse than I expected. I don't know why I thought canceling a wedding would feel like one big dramatic moment. It didn't. It was 100 small humiliations. Emails, phone calls, deposits. I called the venue first, then the florist, then the photographer. Every call had the same rhythm. Hi, this is Emma Carter. Yes, for the wedding in October. No, we need to cancel. And then the silence on the other side. Sometimes awkwardness, sometimes business. The florist asked if I wanted to keep the deposit as credit for a future event. I almost laughed. A future event. Like maybe I could use it for another version of myself. A version who made better choices. A version who didn't break good men. I said no. Then I hung up and cried at my desk with my office door closed. My mother came over 2 days later. Noah was out. I think he did that on purpose. She arrived with groceries, soup, and that expression mothers have when they have already decided they are worried but are trying to look calm. She hugged me. For a few seconds, I let myself be her daughter. Then she pulled back and held my face. What happened? I sat down. She sat across from me, the same table where the wedding invitation had been face down for days. There's someone else, I said. My mother closed her eyes. Did Noah know? He knows now. Who is he? And for some reason, that question felt like the edge of a cliff. He isn't. My mother stared at me. What? It's not a man. The room changed. Not dramatically. No thunder. Just a shift. My mother sat very still. I could see her trying to reorganize what she thought she knew about me. She works at the hotel, I said. She's an artist. My mother's face went through too many emotions to name. Is this real? That hurt. But I understood why she asked. I don't know what everything means yet, I said, but I know I couldn't marry Noah. He is a good man. He loved you. I know, Mom. Then why? There it was. The question everyone was going to ask. The question I had been asking myself. Why, if he was good? Why destroy something that so many people would have begged for? I took a breath. Because I think I confused being safe with being happy, and I think I confused being loved with being known. She didn't answer, so I kept going. I love Noah, but I don't think I wanted the life we were building in the way I should have. I think I wanted to want it. That sentence made her cry harder. I pictured your wedding since you were a little girl. I know you did. And you and Noah, you were always, I know. Everyone knows. That's the problem. Everyone already knew what my life was supposed to be. And I don't think I ever asked myself if I wanted it. She looked older in that moment, not because of her face. Because I could see her realizing that loving me did not mean she had known me completely. Finally, she said, What are you going to do? I'm moving out. Are you going to her? No. The word came out strong. I can't go from Noah straight to Claire. I need to know who I am when no one is holding me together. My mother wiped her face. For the first time since she arrived, she nodded. A small nod. Not understanding, not approval, but something. That sounds mature, she said. I laughed a little. It feels terrible. Most mature things do. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. I don't know how to help you with this. I don't know how to do it either. She squeezed my hand. Then I'll sit here while you don't know. And that was the first time in days that I breathed without feeling like I was stealing the air. I found the apartment 4 days later. 3rd floor, no elevator, yellow kitchen tiles, a bedroom window that didn't close properly. A heater that made a clicking sound every few minutes, like it was annoyed to be alive. It was too expensive for what it was, too small, a little ugly. But when the landlord opened the door and I stepped inside, I felt something I did not expect. Fear. And under it, very quietly, space. There was no photo of me and Noah on the shelf, no wedding calendar on the fridge, no history waiting for me in every corner, just empty rooms, ugly rooms, but mine, maybe. I signed the lease the next day. Packing was brutal, not because there was so much stuff, because every object had a memory attached to it. Noah helped. That was almost unbearable. He wrapped plates in newspaper, asked if I wanted to keep the small lamp by the bed. I said, You can keep it. He said, I don't want it. Then we both stood there looking at the lamp like it had committed a crime. Eventually, I put it in a donation box. That was how a life ended, not with one grand goodbye. With lamps, books, chargers, half-used candles. On my last night in the apartment, we ordered pizza. We sat on the floor because the table had already been taken apart. Do you remember when we moved in? He said. You dropped the couch on your foot. It was a very heavy couch. You cried. I did not cry. You absolutely cried. He laughed. A real laugh, small but real. And that laugh hurt more than the silence. Then it faded. I'm going to miss you, he said. I'm going to miss you too. He looked at me. Part of me keeps wishing you had done something worse. I understood immediately, so it would be easier to hate me. Yeah. I don't know how to stop loving you yet. I don't either. And that was true. Leaving someone does not always mean love is gone. Sometimes love is still there, standing in the doorway, watching you carry boxes to the car. I moved out on a Saturday morning. My mother came with her SUV. Megan came with coffee. Noah helped carry the boxes down. Nobody made it dramatic. At the door, I turned around. Noah stood in the hallway. Emma, he said. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Then he stepped forward and hugged me. I broke immediately. His arms still felt like home. That was the cruel part. They still knew me. I'm so sorry, I whispered. I know. He held me for a little longer. Then he let go first. Not harshly, but clearly, because someone had to. I walked down the stairs carrying the last box. And I did not look back. Not because I was strong, because if I looked back, I wasn't sure I could keep walking. The first day in my new apartment was awful. I'm not going to make it prettier than it was. I closed the door behind me, looked around at the boxes, and sat on the floor. Then I cried for 40 minutes, not delicate crying, ugly crying, because even when you make the right decision, it can still hurt like hell. People don't say that enough. They talk about freedom like it always feels like sunlight. Sometimes freedom feels like sitting on a dirty floor surrounded by boxes, realizing no one is coming home. That was my freedom at first. Messy, lonely, cold, mine. Claire didn't text me. Not that day, not the next, and I didn't text her either. That was harder than I want to admit, because every lonely moment tried to turn into an excuse. I wanted to write. I moved. I wanted to write. I'm alone. I wanted to write. I miss you. But every time I heard her voice. I can't be the place you run to because your life is falling apart. So I didn't run. I sat in the falling apart. I unpacked plates. I fought with the bedroom window. I learned the sound of the heater. I learned which floorboards creaked. And slowly, very slowly, I started to learn the sound of my own life without Noah in it. At first, it sounded empty. Then it sounded unfamiliar. Then, one morning, it simply sounded quiet. Not peaceful yet, but quiet. The first Saturday alone nearly broke me. Noah and I had always gone to the market on Saturdays. It was our thing. That first Saturday in my apartment, I woke up at 7 with no idea what to do. The whole day stretched in front of me. No plans, no one waiting, no one asking what I wanted for breakfast. It should have felt freeing. Instead, it felt terrifying. I realized I had no idea how to choose without someone else being affected by the answer. That was a hard thing to admit. I had spent years thinking I was mature because I was responsible, but responsibility had become a hiding place. If I was always taking care of the plan, I never had to ask what I wanted. So that morning, I did something stupid. I went to the store and bought a set of cheap paints. Nothing fancy, a little box of colors, a pack of brushes, and paper that was probably meant for children. When I got home, I put everything on the kitchen table. Then I just stared at it, like it was dangerous. I hadn't painted since I was a kid. I used to love it, and then I stopped. Not because someone told me to in one big cruel moment. It was smaller than that. Homework, exams, a job, being serious, being useful, being the kind of person people didn't have to worry about. At some point, drawing started to feel childish, and I let it go. That morning, I opened a tube of green paint. I didn't use a brush. I just touched it with my finger. Then I dragged the color across the paper. It was ugly, a crooked line, nothing. And still, I laughed, alone, in my terrible yellow kitchen. Because for 1 second, I wasn't trying to fix my life. I wasn't trying to be forgiven. I was just making a mess. Then I started crying again. But this time, it felt different. Not better exactly, just different. Noah and I met 1 month after I moved out. It was his idea. A coffee shop across town, far away from the streets where everyone knew us. I arrived early because of course I did. When Noah walked in, my whole body reacted. For a second, I wanted to stand up and go straight into his arms. Then I remembered we didn't belong to each other that way anymore. We hugged. Short. Careful. He looked thinner. Or maybe just tired. For a while, we talked about easy things. Then he looked down at his cup. I told my parents. My dad asked if I cheated. Of course he did. I told him no, he didn't understand. My mom didn't either. Noah looked out the window. I think people need a villain. They don't know what to do when someone leaves without one. I looked at my hands. Do you think I'm the villain? He didn't answer quickly. I respected him for that. He didn't rush to make me feel better. I think you hurt me, he said, and sometimes I hate you for it. And sometimes I miss you so much I forget to be angry. Then I remember and I get angry all over again. My eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to apologize in a way that is enough. I don't think there is a way. Some apologies do not repair. They just stand beside the damage and tell the truth. He turned his cup slowly. I've been thinking about us as kids. I think part of me always believed that if I loved you well enough, you would never leave. That broke my heart. Noah, I'm not saying it to blame you. But I think you believe something too. What? That if I loved you well enough, you didn't have the right to want anything else. I couldn't speak, because there it was, the cleanest version of the ugliest truth. I had turned his goodness into a debt, as if having a good man meant I was required to be happy, as if not being mistreated meant I had no excuse to leave. I didn't know I felt that way, I said. I know. That's what hurts, I think. You weren't trying to lie to me. You were trying to lie to yourself. A tear fell onto my hand. Then he said something I was not expecting. I think we both did that. grew into versions of ourselves that made sense to everyone else. I looked at him. I liked being the guy who loved you, he said. It gave me a role. Maybe sometimes I hid there too. Maybe you weren't the only one who didn't know how to be alone. That sentence stayed with me for a long time because he was right. We had grown around each other like two trees planted too close together. For years that felt romantic. Now I wondered how much sunlight we had blocked from each other without meaning to. When we left the coffee shop, we hugged on the sidewalk. I want you to be happy, Em, he said into my hair. I almost couldn't stand it, because I believed him, and because I knew how much it cost him to say it. I want you to be happy too, I whispered. He walked to his car. He didn't run back. He didn't turn around in some perfect movie moment. He just left. And I understood that sometimes loving someone means not dragging them with you while you learn how to breathe. Claire finished her contract at the Marlowe in early May, Megan told me. Not Claire. Today is Claire's last day, she said. I pretended my stomach didn't drop. Oh, Megan stared at me. Before Claire showed up, you looked like someone who had every box checked. After she showed up, you looked like someone standing in the middle of an earthquake. I looked down. It wasn't because of her. Megan didn't answer right away. Then she said, maybe not only because of her. That hurt because it was fair. Claire had not destroyed my life. She had turned on a light, and what I saw in that light had already been there. At 6, after most of the staff had left, I went down to the main corridor. The paintings were installed, all 3 of them. The first was the one with the sea. The figure turned away. The permission no one could give. Claire was standing in front of the last one with a box of supplies at her feet. She didn't hear me come in. For a second, I could have left. Maybe that would have been easier, but I was tired of running away from rooms just because they had truth in them. It's beautiful, I said. Claire went still. Then she turned. She didn't smile, not at first. Thank you. A month had passed since we had really spoken. She looked the same. And not the same. More careful, more distant, like she had learned where not to touch me. I hated that I had taught her that. I heard today was your last day, I said. Yeah. I moved. I know. Megan told me. Of course she did. There were so many things I wanted to say that none of them felt safe. Claire picked up the box. Claire! She stopped. My heart started pounding. I'm sorry. For kissing you and then acting like you could be erased. For leaving you with that. For making you feel like you had done something wrong. You didn't make me feel wrong, she said. I breathed out. You made me feel used. That hit me hard. Not because it was cruel, because it was true. I know, I whispered. And I know you didn't mean to, but it still happened. Yes, Claire looked at the painting. I felt it too, Emma. My whole body went still. She gave a small laugh, but there was no humor in it. You weren't inventing it alone. My eyes filled with tears. Then why did you pull away? Because you were engaged, because you were breaking, because I didn't want to be the reason you left someone. And because, honestly, I was scared that one day you would wake up, look at me, and decide I had just been a crisis. I couldn't answer. Because I had feared the same thing, only from the other side. I care about you, she said, a lot more than I should for how long we've known each other, but I need to stay away. Because I can't stand close, waiting for you to figure out who you are. That hurt, but I respected it. Claire had always done that. She didn't save me from the truth. She put it in front of me and trusted that someday, maybe, I would be brave enough to look at it. She walked toward me. Stop close. Not too close. Just close enough for the air to change. Take care of yourself, Emma. You too. Then she smiled. Small, sad, real. And then she left. I watched her cross the corridor with the box in her arms. The late afternoon light touched her for 1 second. Then she disappeared down the hall. I didn't run after her. I didn't call her name. Because if I ever found her again, I didn't want to arrive as an escape. I wanted to arrive as a choice. After Claire left the Marlowe, my life became quiet in a way I did not know how to handle. Not peaceful. That's important. People confuse quiet with peace all the time. It was just silence. And silence, when you have spent your whole life surrounded by plans and people and expectations, can feel almost violent at first. The first few weeks were not beautiful. I want to be honest about that. Some nights were just bad. There were days when I missed Noah so much that I would sit on the edge of my bed and wonder if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. Not because I suddenly wanted to marry him. Missing someone does not always mean you are supposed to go back. Sometimes it just means they mattered, and Noah mattered. I would see his favorite cereal at the grocery store and suddenly I could barely breathe. I would reach across the bed in the middle of the night before I remembered there was no one there, And then I would feel guilty, because somewhere underneath missing Noah, I also missed Claire, not in the same way, but with a sharpness that scared me. I missed her voice. I missed the paint on her hands. I missed how impossible it was to lie to her. And I hated that I missed both of them, because it made me feel greedy, like I had broken one heart and still wanted comfort from another, so I didn't call Claire. I stayed alone. Not because I was strong, because for once in my life I knew running would only create another lie. My mother came over often. At first she pretended she was just bringing things. Soup, towels, a plant, a bag of oranges I did not ask for, but really she came because she was worried. One afternoon she stood in my kitchen washing dishes I hadn't asked her to wash. Then she said, "Have you talked to her?" I knew who she meant. "No, not at all. Do you want to?" I looked at the paint tubes on the table. Every day. She turned off the water. "Then why don't you?" I let out a long breath. "Because I don't want to use her. If I go to Claire now while everything is still bleeding, I won't know if I'm choosing her or just trying not to feel alone." My mother dried her hands slowly. "And you want to know?" "Yes." She nodded. For the first time, I saw something like understanding cross her face. "That sounds mature." I laughed a little. "It feels terrible. Most mature things do." And for 1 second, I remembered that before she was my mother, she was a woman too. A woman who probably had her own rooms full of choices she never explained to me. The painting started as a distraction. That is what I told myself. But it became more than that. Not because I was good. I was not good. My first paintings looked like emotional weather reports made by a child. Crooked lines, too much paint, doors that leaned to one side, windows that looked like they were melting. But I kept going. At first, I tried to make things pretty. Then I realized pretty was another performance, so I made things ugly. And honest. I painted a girl standing in front of a closed door, then a kitchen with no chairs, then a white dress hanging inside a dark room. That one made me cry so hard I had to leave it unfinished for 3 days. When I finally came back to it, I painted a window beside the dress. Not open, not closed, just there, like a possibility. And maybe that was the first time I understood that healing was not one big brave decision. It was returning to the same painful thing with a little more truth each time. Noah and I texted sometimes after that. Short messages, careful messages, messages with no emojis. That hurt more than I expected, because Noah had always used too many emojis, ridiculous ones, the wrong ones. A thumbs up when he meant I love you. A taco when there were no tacos involved. A dolphin once, for reasons neither of us ever understood. Now his messages were clean, polite, like we were co-workers managing the collapse of our shared life. And I sat on my kitchen floor and grieved that too, not just the person. The language, the habits, the bad jokes, the way he ruined emojis forever, all of it. I saw Claire again 4 months after she left the Marlowe. I didn't plan it. That was the strange part. It happened in a small gallery on the north side of the city. Megan dragged me there, and I do mean dragged. She showed up at my apartment in a black dress and red lipstick and said, "You have 20 minutes to get ready." I was on the couch in sweatpants, eating crackers for dinner. For what? An art opening. No. Your kitchen is yellow, your heater is possessed, and the last time I came over you were eating soup out of a measuring cup. We are going outside. I'm not asking. So I wore jeans, a black shirt, and the leather jacket I had bought and never worn because I said it made me look like I was trying too hard. "It makes you look like you're trying to be alive," Megan said. When we arrived, the gallery was crowded in that quiet, expensive way. People holding plastic cups of wine, people saying things like, "There's so much movement here," while clearly having no idea what they meant. Megan handed me a drink and walked off towards someone she knew. I should have left. Honestly, I almost did. Then I saw the painting, and everything in me stopped. It was large. White background, a blue door, slightly crooked, not like mine, not exactly, but close enough that my chest tightened. The door was open just a crack, not wide, not dramatic, just enough for light to come through. Like the painting wasn't saying, "Come in." It was saying, "When you're ready." There was a small card beside it, Claire Bennett. Then I heard her voice behind me. "You always end up looking at doors." I closed my eyes, just for a second. Then I turned around. Claire was there. Her hair was down, a dark green dress, black boots. There were no visible paint stains at first, which almost felt wrong. Then I noticed a thin blue line on one of her fingers. Of course. "Hi, Emma." Hi. And that was all I could say. Hi, after everything. But this hi felt different from the one with Noah. With Noah, hi had been what was left. With Claire, hi felt like a door opening 1 inch. I didn't know this was your opening, I said. I was ambushed. Claire looked across the room and saw Megan, who lifted her cup with zero shame. Claire smiled. That sounds like Megan. Then she looked back at me. You look different. My first instinct was to ask, good different or bad different? But I didn't. That was new. Instead I said, I feel different. Yeah? I thought about giving the pretty answer. Something simple, something strong, something like, I'm doing better. But with Claire, pretty answers always felt useless. Sometimes, I said. She nodded. Like that answer meant more than a performance. Sometimes is good. We stepped outside to breathe. The air was cool. The streetlights had just come on. She leaned against the brick wall beside me, leaving a careful distance between us. That careful distance hurt and comforted me at the same time. Megan told me Noah is moving, she said. Chicago. New job. Yeah. How do you feel? I thought about lying. Then I didn't. Weird. It hurt less than I expected. And that hurt too. She looked at me then, gently. Sometimes healing feels like betraying the pain. That sentence hit so hard I had to look away. Yes, I said. Exactly that. Because that was it. I had spent so many months hurting that part of me had started to treat the pain like proof. Proof that Noah mattered. Proof that I had loved him. So when the pain began to soften, I felt guilty. Like peace meant I was forgetting him. But maybe healing was not forgetting. Maybe it was finally being able to remember without bleeding. Then she asked me the question again, not exactly the same way, but close enough that my whole body recognized it. Are you happy, Emma? The first time she asked me that, I had laughed because I couldn't answer. This time, I didn't laugh. No, I said. Claire didn't move. Not all the time. Her face stayed open. But sometimes, yes. And when I am, it feels more mine. Claire looked down. When she looked back up, her eyes were shining. That is a good answer. It took me a while. The good ones usually do. My heart started beating faster. Not like the night in the storage room. Not like panic. This was different. This was the terrifying clarity of knowing exactly what I wanted to say. Claire, I don't want you to be the reason I left Noah. Something flickered across her face. I continued before I lost the nerve. And you're not. Not like that. I left because I could not marry him without lying to both of us. I moved out because I needed to know who I was when nobody was holding me together. I stayed alone because I didn't want to turn you into another place to hide. I took a breath. But I thought about you, a lot, more than I knew how to admit without feeling ridiculous. And if there is ever something between us, I don't want it to come out of my chaos. I don't want to arrive broken and expect you to make me feel whole. I want it to be a choice. My voice got softer. This time, a real one. Claire didn't answer right away. And I was grateful for that. I didn't want something easy. I wanted the truth. Finally, she said, I thought about you too. Of course I did. I wasn't sure. I was scared. Really scared. Of me? Of what you might mean. I was scared I was a phase. A crisis. Some door you needed to open just to prove you could leave. I swallowed. And I was scared I wasn't. That sentence went through me. Because yes, sometimes you are not only afraid that something is not real, sometimes you are afraid that it is. I don't know what happens next, she said. I don't want to make some huge promise outside a gallery. I laughed through the tears in my eyes. That would be a lot, even for us. She smiled. But I could get coffee with you. We walked to a small coffee shop 2 blocks away. We did not hold hands. Not yet. And I liked that. Not because I didn't want to. I did. But there was something beautiful about not rushing. About not turning the moment into proof. About letting it be small. Real things can begin small. I was learning that. Claire ordered tea. I started to order coffee. Then, at the last second, changed my mind and ordered hot chocolate. Claire looked at me. Hot chocolate? I'm exploring who I am. And who are you? I held the warm cup between both hands. Apparently someone who doesn't always want coffee. She nodded seriously. Radical. I'm starting small. We talked about simple things. Her show. My possessed heater. Megan and her complete inability to mind her own business. We did not talk about the kiss. We did not talk about Noah, but all of it was there. Not as a shadow, as ground. A week later, she invited me to her studio. Canvases everywhere, paint jars, plants that were almost alive, a huge window. The floor was stained with years of color. Claire walked over to a large unfinished canvas, green and white and pale blue, a small figure near water. She handed me a brush. I immediately stepped back. No. Yes. Absolutely not. It's just paint, on your actual painting. Emma. There it was, my name. Still dangerous, but different now. Make one mark, she said. I held the brush like it might explode. Finally, I dipped it into blue and made one small line near the corner. It was crooked, unnecessary, probably a mistake. I stepped back immediately. I ruined it. Claire studied the line. Then she picked up another brush, dipped it in gold, and painted beside mine. One line. Then another. Then a shadow. And somehow, my awkward blue mark became part of something. I stared. How did you do that? Claire looked at the canvas. I didn't treat it like an error. I thought about that sentence for days. I didn't treat it like an error, because maybe that was what I was trying to learn with my whole life. Not to pretend I hadn't hurt people, not to call every mistake destiny, but to ask a different question. Not, how do I erase this, but what do I do with it now? That was harder. And better. Noah told me he was moving to Chicago by text. I got the job. I stared at the message in my kitchen, holding a paintbrush in one hand. For a second, I felt sadness so sharp I had to sit down. Then I smiled. Because Noah had always wanted to live in a big city for a while. He had talked about it when we were younger. Then somehow, over the years, that dream became smaller, less urgent, then not mentioned at all. Maybe because of us. I wrote back, Noah, that's amazing. You have to go. He replied a few minutes later. I am, just that. Not maybe, not we'll see. I am, and I cried. Not because he was leaving me. He had already done that. I had already done that. I cried because he was choosing himself too. And something about that felt like forgiveness, even if it wasn't. Before he left, he asked if I would meet him at the lake. The same lake, of course. The place where he kissed me at 17. The place where he proposed. I almost said no. Not because I didn't want to see him. Because I was afraid the place would destroy me. But I went. He was already there, standing near the water with 2 coffees in his hands. He handed me one. No extra sugar. Still remember? I remember too many things. We walked along the edge of the lake. Then we stopped near the spot where he had proposed. Neither of us said that out loud. We didn't have to. Are you with her? He asked. He didn't say Claire's name. He didn't need to. Yes. Does she make you happy? I thought about giving some complicated answer, but I knew what he was really asking. She makes me feel honest. Noah looked at me then. It hurt him. I saw that, but he nodded. That's probably better. Noah, I am sorry for the way I hurt you. I don't think I'll ever be done meaning it, and I loved you. I need you to know that was real. His jaw tightened slightly. I know that. I do now. Now. That word hurt. But it also healed something, because it meant he had doubted it, and maybe he had found his way back to believing it. I think I wanted our story to be the whole story, he said. So did I. And maybe it was just the beginning of both of us becoming people we didn't know how to become together. I wiped my face. When did you get so wise? I suffered immensely. I laughed. So did he. It was sad, but it was real. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. I found something. I opened it. Inside was a dinosaur Band-Aid. For a second, I didn't understand. Then I did. The scraped knee, the curb, the first day, the beginning of us. I laughed and cried at the same time. I can't take this. Yes, you can. You saved me first. My heart broke open. Then he added, so save yourself now. We hugged before we left. Not like lovers. Not like people trying to hold on. Like 2 people saying thank you for a life that could not continue. Be happy, Em. I'm trying. He smiled. Then he walked to his car. This time, when I watched him leave, I did not feel like my life was leaving with him. I felt like one chapter of my life had closed the door softly. No slam, no hatred. Just a door closing. And another one, somewhere, waiting. The first time Claire kissed me after we found each other again, it was not dramatic. No rain, no storage room, no guilt waiting outside the door. It was a Sunday afternoon in a park. We had been walking for almost 2 hours, talking about nothing and everything. We sat on a bench under a huge tree. There were children playing far away, a dog chasing a ball, leaves moving in the wind, a normal day. That was what made it beautiful. Claire noticed my hands. They're cold again. They are not always cold. They are often cold. You observe too much. It is literally my job. I smiled. She was looking ahead, but I was looking at her. Her profile. The small blue paint stain that somehow lived permanently on one of her fingers. I felt desire. Yes. But I also felt calm. That was new. The first time I kissed Claire, it felt like falling. This time, it felt like arriving. Claire, I said. She turned her head. No joke, no deflection, just her eyes on mine. I lifted my hand slowly and moved a strand of hair away from her face. I'm here, I said. I don't know why those were the words, but they were the right ones. I'm here too, she said. So I kissed her, slowly, not to escape, not to prove something, not to break a promise. I kissed her because I wanted to, because I could, because I chose to. When we pulled apart, she rested her forehead against mine. I smiled before I could stop myself. What? She whispered. It's just, this time I don't want to run. Claire closed her eyes. Her smile came slowly. Good, and that word was enough. Being with Claire was not a perfect ending. I need to say that too. Because people love to turn things into clean stories. Girl leaves man, girl finds woman. Girl becomes free. The end. But real life is not that neat. I still had old habits. I still wanted to control things when I was afraid. I still tried to be easy to love. One night, she asked me where I wanted to eat. I said, anywhere is fine. She put her keys down. No. I asked where you want to eat. I don't care. You do. It is never just dinner with you. I got defensive, but she was right. I had spent so many years being agreeable that I sometimes did not know the difference between kindness and disappearance. So I stood there, embarrassed, and finally said, I want Thai food. She picked up her keys. Great, that's it? No discussion? You wanted Thai food. We get Thai food. I almost cried in the car. She saw that too. But she didn't make it a big thing. She just reached over and took my hand. Sometimes love is not someone making a speech. Sometimes love is someone letting your answer matter, even when the question is small, especially then. A year after I canceled the wedding, I went back to the Marlowe, not as an employee. I had left a few months earlier. I was working part-time coordinating events for a small gallery and taking design classes at night. It was not impressive. Not in the way people like stories to be impressive. I did not become famous. I did not become fearless. I still made lists. The difference was the lists were no longer a cage. They were just tools. Claire had a new installation at the Marlowe, and she asked me to come. At first, I wasn't sure I could. The hotel still had too many ghosts. The hallway where I avoided her, the ballroom where she asked me if I liked my life, the storage room where I kissed her and then tried to erase it. But I went. When I walked into the Marlowe, everything looked the same. Cream walls, dark floors, gold lamps, that same expensive smell. But I was not the same woman walking in with a clipboard against her chest. Claire was near the main corridor, speaking with a group of people. When she saw me, she smiled. Not secretly, not with guilt, openly. She walked toward me and took my hand. In public, no drama, no hiding, just her fingers sliding between mine. Nobody shouted, nobody gasped. The world did not end. I just kept breathing. She led me to the West Ballroom, the room where we had met, the room where she had once stared at a blank wall like it had something to say. Now the wall was covered by her new painting. It was huge, bigger than the others. At first I saw color, blue, gold, green, white. Then I saw the figure. A woman standing in front of an open door. But this time she was not frozen. This time one foot had already crossed the threshold. Beyond the door there was no perfect future. No castle, no answer, no guarantee, just light, air, movement. What do you see? Claire asked. I remembered the first time she asked me that. I remembered saying I saw her working in an unauthorized area. This time I did not hide behind a joke. I looked at the painting, really looked, and I said, I see someone who stopped waiting for permission. Claire squeezed my hand. She did not say anything. She didn't need to. Later that night, back at my apartment, the yellow kitchen was still yellow. The window still didn't close right. The heater still clicked like it had personal issues. But it no longer felt like exile. It felt like home. Not because it was beautiful, because I had chosen it. Claire sat on the floor of my living room looking at one of my paintings leaning against the wall. We had a couch by then, technically, but it was uncomfortable, and somehow every important conversation still ended up on the floor. After a while I said, I think about the version of me who was going to get married. Claire didn't move. What do you think? I looked at the cup in my hands. I feel sorry for her, because she was trying so hard to be good. Good daughter, good fiancée. Good version of whatever everyone could understand. Claire laced her fingers through mine. She was good, she said. She was just lost. I let that sit in me, because for a long time I thought that choosing my truth meant I had to hate the woman I was before. But I didn't. That girl was not fake. She was not weak. She was young. She was scared. She wanted to be loved. And she had never been taught that what she wanted mattered too. Claire did not save me. I want to be clear about that. She did not walk into my life with pain on her hands and rescue me from some gray little existence. She saw me. And sometimes being seen is more dangerous than being saved, because once someone sees you clearly, it becomes much harder to keep pretending. 6 months before my wedding, a woman asked me if I was happy. I couldn't answer her that day. The truth was too big, too inconvenient, too dangerous. 1 year later, I stood in the same hotel where I had once held a clipboard like a shield, looking at a painting of a woman crossing through an open door, with that same woman's hand in mine. My old life was not erased. My mistakes were not erased. Noah was not erased. Nothing about it was clean. But it was honest. A yellow kitchen, paint on my fingers, a mother still learning me, a first love I could release without hating, a woman who never asked me to run, only to be honest, a life that was imperfect, unplanned, sometimes terrifying, but mine. For the first time, completely mine. If this story stayed with you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with the part that moved you the most. Your support helps us keep bringing you more emotional stories like this one.